It's your girl, VK Johannem. So I've talked about the various parts of the soul on this channel. I simplify it to being a personal metagod, and then a spiritual shadow, a higher self, and a spirit animal, all of which are aspects of the personal metagod. The personal metagod is, you know, the gestalt of these soul components. That's what this video is about. Soul components. Personal metagod. That's a soul component. Spiritual shadow, higher self, those are soul components. And I've kind of oversimplified it thus far. So we're going to talk about the nuance that exists within soul components. So, I know someone who doesn't have one spiritual shadow, but two separate and different spiritual shadows, whereas I only have one. Most people only have one, I think, right? But there's a person in existence who has two. You probably don't have two. You might. I only have one. So, this person's soul components are nuanced, unique. So, when I talk about the four main soul components, personal metagod, higher self, spirit animal, spiritual shadow, that's four soul components which I believe everyone has. Which I'm pretty fucking sure everyone has. But in addition to this, I have some soul components that I'm pretty sure that no one I know of but me has. Or at least that most people don't have. I've got unique soul components, just like the homeboy I previously described, right? A friend of a friend hit me up recently, trying to say, "Hey, I learned about another soul component that you haven't talked about called the light self. Have you explored your light self?" And I'm like, "Never even heard of it." And she's like, "I can see your light self. You have a light self. You should be working with your light self." It's kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Kind of seemed arrogant. Do I know you? But I go to my higher self, and I was like, "Hey, there's a person who my friends seem to have faith in, telling me that I have a part of my soul that I haven't tapped into, claiming they can see it." And my higher self said, "The light self, this soul component that this person is discussing, does exist, yes. But you don't have it. That's not what she's seeing." And I'm like, "All right, bet." So this friend of a friend has a soul component that I don't have. And I'm fine with not having it. Because I've got my own soul components that are apparently unique to me. Then I've got this one soul component that I don't know how common it is. So, yeah. I feel like that's basically all I have to say. You may have soul components that are unique to you. So when you see me talk about the four main soul components, and then you find that you have number 5, don't get confused and say, "Oh, VK says there's only 4. I must be wrong." I've been simplifying it to talk about the soul components that I believe everyone has. Now, here's another thing. I'm never going to have a full understanding of the nuance of soul components. I'm just one guy. See, us people who teach magic, everything we say is limited by our own experience, the experiences of people we know and trust, and our research. There's always more dope practitioners we've never learned from. There's always more sources we haven't researched. We are all limited. A friend of mine was talking about a magical current that a contemporary occult teacher introduced to the community. He said he thought the current was an egregore. So I spoke to one of the deities venerated in that current. And she said, the current isn't an egregore. It's just limited by the person, by the mind of the person who introduced it to the world. I respect the current in question. Right. Here's another thing. As Curtis Joseph has told the world, Ahriman is within us all. Ahriman's part of us all. That does not mean that every practitioner should work with Ahriman, by any means. No one says that everyone should work with Ahriman. He just said Ahriman exists within. And then J.S. Garrett came along and he said, Semyaza is a foundational component of human consciousness, which is true. That doesn't mean everyone should work with Semyaza. And then I confirmed their gnosis with my own channeling. Not that they need my validation. And I found that the Greek goddess Nyx is also a component of human consciousness. She exists within us. Nyx is like an external Greek goddess, but she's also part of us all. In my personal gnosis. Now that's 3 deities that I know exist within all of us. Chances are there are more, right? Chances are there are more. And chances are I will never know which other deities have that relationship with the human species. Chances are I'll never work with them. Just as some very valid and knowledgeable and self-actualized practitioners will probably never work with Semyaza or Ahriman. That is to say that chances are no one will ever explore every part of their own soul. And I can't decide whether realizing that is liberating or the opposite. Anyways, that's all for now. Have a great night and enjoy your immortality.